Here we go.
Good morning, Galahorn! The gang is back. The three grumpy old men are here, ready to talk some Vikings football. And what in the heck this team is doing? That happens to be the question of the day. And of this whole entire 2020 preseason new year coming up and all the transactions that have transpired since we last talked. And that was, a couple weeks after the Super Bowl, and we talked about all the holes in the Viking roster that are going to need to be filled and who we might lose, who we're going to lose, and guess what, folks? Looks like it happened. Ted, how you doing?
Gentlemen, I like my pretty beer. Pretty beer. Come on, get me some more Corona. No, I'm doing good, guys. I mean, I hope you guys are staying safe, and if you have family members that could be affected by this thing that's affecting the whole world, that you're socially distancing or whatever it is they're recommending to do. And anyways, other than that, I'm doing good. Looks like I'm gonna have to go back into work. We were gonna telework, but that whole system isn't working as advertised, so I'm still gonna have to go work a few hours a day. But yeah, we're doing good. How are you guys doing?
Meow. Look at you guys. Look, new Tommy Kramer jersey. Let me see that thing. Stand up.
What?
Let me see that thing. Oh yeah, baby. Tommy Kramer jersey. And I know you got a signed photograph with that. You did all right.
Yeah, this jersey's actually.
Look at that. Oh my God, dude, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
Tommy
excellent.
Kramer is a grade A quality human being, by the way.
Yeah,
He
he is. Yes.
Grade A quality human being.
Great to see
Yeah.
you guys. Everybody's healthy. I hope.
Yeah.
Dave's got that first round T-shirt on and that seventh round beard. Everything's looking.
That's right. Haven't shaved. I haven't
Brown hat,
trimmed
that
it.
undrafted free agent cup.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to be back on. It's good to be back on with you guys. What a week, huh? I mean, come on.
So far, and it started Monday when we got up, and shortly thereafterwards, after seeing reports after reports that Kirk Cousins had turned down extension offers, suddenly we get surprised by Kirk Cousins extended. And we're like, what? For how much? Right? And it turns out to be, what was it, 61 million or 66 million over 3 years? Basically 3 years. It's 2-year extension plus what we paid him. And for all intents and purposes, it is fully 100% guaranteed. The only caveat is he no longer has no trade clause. So the Vikings could trade him. Won't happen.
Dave's more happy about that than the re-sign. You see his face? He doesn't give a shit about the re-sign. He wants to trade him.
I gotta say, there are two things that surprised me about this deal. One that they even did the extension. We kind of talked, I think, in our last show, and folks, if you haven't seen our last show, we were pretty much patting ourselves on the back with how accurate we were with how everything would transpire. Anyway, so go watch that when you get a chance.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I'm kind of surprised by the extension, but I'm not surprised by the extension. I thought that since they had gone down the road for a fully guaranteed deal, he would get another fully guaranteed deal. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad he doesn't have that no trade clause. But that third year of the contract is actually fairly manageable. I mean, he's got only $10 million in dead money. So they now have options. I mean, the next 2 years for him at least are very cap prohibitive. I mean, he's got a $62 million dead cap hit this year and $41 million in 2021. But after that, yeah, it's okay, whatever.
And they won't be held hostage, right? With the trade thing, they can trade him.
Yeah.
They could trade him. If some other team's willing to.
Not that they're
going to
do that. Not that they're going to do that. But.
still not a big fan of this. I mean, because when you look at the other moves the Vikings have made, I'm not seeing where the Cousins extension makes sense, and we'll get into all the other moves here in a little bit. But when you add it all together, it's just weird. It doesn't feel like they have a coherent plan, or it's like a combination of trying to compete for the Super Bowl while still trying to go through a minor rebuild. And I don't know. It's not giving me a warm fuzzy, boys.
Yeah. Well, when you're standing at the end of the craps table and they hand you those dice, and you start thinking, man, I hope when I throw these dice, they land on the right. And that's the plan. I think that's the plan. We're going to throw the crap dice.
Yeah.
Hope that shit lands on the right numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't see a wave of joy come through when I seen the Cousins extension, like you'd probably think of when you get your franchise quarterback extended for 2 more years. But I kind of expected that. It's tough. It's tough. The whole Cousins thing is really weird. He leads a team to the divisional round with that big win in New Orleans, but it's arguable both ways. But it's strange. The last show we did talk about losing all these guys on defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you prepare yourself for it. And then it happens this week, and you're still kind of going. It still feels weird, Even though you're prepared for it, it's very strange.
Yeah.
A lot of exits, lots of exits.
Well, it started off the week. We knew there was going to be some cuts. We had 2 cuts to start off the week. Linval Joseph, which we figured was one of them, and Xavier Rhodes, which is another. Now, since then, Linval has signed an agreement with the Los Angeles Chargers for 2 years, $17 million plus $2 million in incentives. But Rhodes is still out there. Now, that's causing issues with other free agents we had on the defense, because we know we had Trey Waynes as the other outside corner. He signed a deal with the Bengals for $14 million per for 3 years. And he turned down a deal for $16 million per, I was just listening to, for somewhere. I don't know where. Which to us seems way overpaid for an average corner. Well, just today, Mackenzie Alexander signs with the Bengals on a 1-year, $4 million contract. Mackenzie Alexander was one of the best slot corners, nickel corners in the league. And 1 year, $4 million seems awfully, awfully low, especially knowing that the Bengals have tons of cap room to spend. But that was one of the players that, even though the Vikings tried to get back, that there was some animosity there, and he decided to leave, even if he took a pay cut. So those are your corners. Your 3 starting corners, outside and slot, or your nickel corner, are gone.
No big deal.
Hey, we got Holton Hill.
There's no weed rule, so you don't have to worry about Holton.
So he can walk out. He can walk out in the field in warm-ups.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But so right now, as it stands, Mike Hughes and Holton Hill probably are your 2 starting cornerbacks.
And
because
Chris
they're the
Boyd.
2 guys with the most experience left, arguably.
And Chris
Hill's
Boyd.
had his and Boyd, and Hill's had his off-the-field issues, which, like you said, with the new CBA, hopefully won't be that big of a deal. But Mike Hughes, people forget. Last year was his first year coming off an ACL, and he struggled a lot. And then he went from in the same week in practice, he went from limited to questionable, or limited to out to injured reserve. And oh, by the way, he broke a bone in his neck. What?
That's, what? The neck, the word neck with any football player automatically puts you into the worry zone. They could end up having a huge whiff with that pick.
Was it Jeremiah Searles or Nick Easton a couple years ago that had a neck issue, bulging disc, I think it was, or something?
Or was it Sullivan? It was one of the centers.
That was his back. It went from back spasms to back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2016. And so, I'm not going to assume Mike Hughes is going to be healthy until Mike Hughes is healthy.
Necks is very tricky.
The Vikings like you said, we talked about this, and now it's here, and you look at the draft the Vikings are going to have, and that's in part because of the Stefon Diggs trade, which we'll talk about, I hope.
Well, yes.
You almost think they have to go cornerback in the first round. They just don't, unless they sign somebody in free agency. But I was just looking at both at Spot Rack and over the cap. They either have $7 or $8 million in available cap space. So
that was prior to signing Bailey today.
Yeah, so you're not going to get,
a guy. And that's right about the number you need for the rookies, and then the final guys. And so if they're going to sign anybody more, and they have to, we only have 52 players presently on the roster. We don't even have a full roster, right? And we're at the point where they can start building up to the 90-man. We don't even have a full roster yet. Now, most of that build-up takes place after the draft. But this is crazy. And a good chunk of those are the guys with the futures contracts, the guys that usually don't make it past the draft when we sign all those undrafted free agent guys. So it looks like we're in rebuild mode. But if we're in rebuild mode, the extension of Cousins doesn't make sense. But
makes less sense than ever.
Right. And then let's get to another re-signing. Today, like I just mentioned, we re-signed our kicker Bailey. So Zimmer can calm down on a kicker issue. We re-signed Britton Colquitt earlier in the week. He was one of our first ones. Cool. We got our specialists all locked up.
Awesome.
Hey, now.
If you were strong at 51 other positions, I'd be fired up about signing the kicker and the punter.
And we
fired up.
Yeah, now that, I can't add to that.
And our number one offensive priority, other than extending Kirk Cousins, to re-sign C.J. Ham to an extension.
$4 million a year for a fullback.
But you can't pay the corner, the slot guy, $4 million.
Here's the deal, though. The Ham signing makes sense because after you traded Stefon Diggs, Ham was the only downfield threat Kirk Cousins has left to throw to.
Oh Lordy!
Look, the
first one of the year. Wait.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
So they've signed their punter, they signed their kicker, they signed a fullback. They extended a quarterback that a lot of fans still don't have full faith in.
Mm-hmm.
Their
not
defense,
just fans. The head of PFF today wrote
their defense has been, the guys that have laid the foundation for the Mike Zimmer defense in large part are gone. They're not coming back. You got Harrison Smith, you got Anthony Barr, and you got Eric Kendricks, who was drafted in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
that are locked up for a longer term.
I believe those are, that's your core guys right now.
Right.
Well, Danielle Hunter is there. They've got a lot of holes they got to fill, and they ain't filling them, boys.
Well, they did franchise tag Anthony Harris, which gets him cheaper than what his market value is. It's $11.441 million to franchise tag him. They gave him the
he'll be here one more season.
They gave him the non-exclusive tag, which means he can go out and seek a trade, and then the Vikings have the right to match that, or if they don't match it, they get 2 first-round draft choices. So that whole 2 first-round draft choices makes it difficult for a lot of other teams to even want to pursue it. So most likely he'll be here, and he'll be here cheap. But to do the player right, they should work at an extension. He is the best safety in the league last year per PFF, and he was the interception leader. But we have Harrison Smith on the other side. We're paying over $20 million for both those guys.
The rumor is, though, they franchised Harris, and now they're shopping
to trade him.
They're shopping him around to trade him
to get some traffic as low as a 3rd round pick. It's just like, what are you, stupid? And
why didn't they do a deal with Harris? before the beginning of last year, when or the very end of 2017. I don't know, man. I just
plan ahead? Come on, Ted.
And you've got guys like Mac Alexander. We talked about 1 year, $4 million. He didn't come back. Jaron Curse, his attitude was soured about the Vikings, and he wasn't coming back. You have the Diggs issue, which we really need to talk about soon. But there's something with this team. With I don't know if it's Mike Zimmer. I don't know if it's the players that guys are wanting. Instead of Minnesota becoming a destination team now, it feels like it's a place guys don't want to be at very long.
Mm-hmm.
Say bye, Princess. Sorry, guys.
Bye, Princess.
Princess snuck in here.
Oh, that's cool.
Thanks, Rube.
She wanted her.
She likes
cameo.
Viking talk. Let's get into the Diggs thing, because
let's go.
Want to know. That's big news. I'm going to leave this kind of up to you, because I don't want to convolute it any more than it has to be. Plus, I've been doing a lot of draft write-ups, so I'm kind of swarmy in my head. It seems like to me they weren't going to trade Diggs, and then this tweeting thing happened, and the Vikings just hadn't. It seemed like it all happened really fast to me. So I don't know if they had the intention, like they've been working it for weeks. It seemed like this new tweeting stuff came out, and it just happened and rolled over. A matter of fact, I answered somebody in a post like 20 minutes before the trade went down. I said, I think he's going to get traded, and then he got traded. So let me just sit back and listen to what you guys think about it.
Go ahead, Dave.
It's been reported.
'Cause I'm gonna blow up.
It's been reported that starting last year, and actually a little bit the year before, Diggs has tried to point out how, besides being open all the time, how the offense should be run and how the present quarterback isn't running it and isn't seeing it and isn't doing anything. But he was talked into last season, staying and holding on. It'll get better. And after week 4, when he threw his, work stoppage type deal and then came back and everything was good for a while, and Thielen got hurt and he got all that production and stuff, and everything was a little bit better. And then he stopped getting the ball towards when Thielen got back, and you could see him getting frustrated. But what capped it off was Monday, when Kirk Cousins got extended. That was the last straw, because he kept telling the organization, this is not how we maximize scoring, and we need to maximize scoring and winning, and what he's doing is not it. And the team backed up the quarterback, which 9 times out of 10 they're going to do. They extended the quarterback. That was enough. He had it. That's when he went to the team, says, I want out. His agent got with him, said he's going to hold back, not come to camp or do whatever unless you trade him. The trade talk started, and he started, when somebody said, all right, is this fake or whatever? He goes, nah, it's real, on one of the responses. And he got traded that evening. We got a good deal for him. I mean, we got quite a bit.
No. We haven't got shit for him. And let's get that straight out there. We didn't get anything for him.
We got a good Buffalo batch of opportunity.
Buffalo got a great route runner, an exciting, dynamic player who makes plays regardless of what anybody wants to say about his attitude. Watch that guy's route running on tape. It is fucking large and precise. Buffalo has won this trade. If you piss away those picks on Troy Williams, Quan Treadwell type of guys, then you didn't win no haul is worth shit yet. Nothing's worth anything. All these picks are right now are fucking numbers on a sheet. That's all they are. Vikings haven't won anything. Now, sorry I butted in. I just wanted to get that out there.
Just wanted to set
I'm
you
sick
up.
of hearing it. Vikings have won the trade. Nothing could be further from the truth.
We did get quite a few picks for it.
I agree. The amount is fine, but
which is opportunity. Now, the question is, can Rick Spielman maximize that opportunity? And with all the holes on the defense and now holes on the offense, because we also released Josh Klein, so we'd have no right guard, can he maximize those picks?
It's Smitty time.
History
need
says
some Smitty time.
no.
Look, I'm taking notes. Here we go.
Here's the thing. If you want to sit here and tell me the best course of action for the Minnesota Vikings is to trade your most dynamic offensive player, then there's something wrong. And it's not all on Diggs. I would argue Stefon Diggs was the guy that lit the Vikings, lit a fire underneath the Minnesota Vikings after that first Chicago game with his little with his temper tantrum or whatever it was. And according to Paul Allen, whether or not you believe him or not, and I would kind of believe PA over most anybody, but he said it was during that week when he didn't come to practice and he got fined $200,000 that the relationship had ended. But they decided he was not going to get traded that year. Diggs was like, fine, I'll play hard, but you're going to trade me in the offseason? Okay, fine. I would argue Stefon Diggs lived up to his end of the bargain. Mm-hmm. I would argue the Minnesota Vikings did not live up to their end of the bargain in putting the best team on the field to give them the best opportunity to win. And whether you want to say that's on other players on offense, on maybe the aging defense wasn't as good, the whole team, I don't care, but it was Stefon Diggs. And the guy who can explain it a lot better than me is Flipmazzi. He did just an epic rant this morning, 15 minutes with Flip. If you can listen to his podcast, check it out, because I listened to it on the way to work and I was literally letting go of my steering wheel and applauding going 35 miles an hour. He was doing so good. Anyways, I think letting Stefon Diggs go was stupid. And you could say, well, he was going to hold out. And okay, fine, but I would argue it's as much the Vikings' fault it got to the point that he was going to hold out and not report than it was Diggs' issue. So you can say, well, Diggs is a diva and a crybaby and this and that and the other thing. He was fine through 2017, even most of 2018. It was last year where things really went south with him after seeing, you spend a lot of money on a quarterback to throw the ball. You spend a lot of money for another wide receiver. You spend a lot of money on Diggs, and then you decide last year you're going to just pound the rock with a very good running back. This is nothing against Dalvin Cook. He's a great back, and he's great out of the backfield catching the ball. But it seemed weird to me that they spent so much money on guys to throw and catch the ball, and now they've gone a full 180 inside of 2 years and have become this run-first team. And, oh, by the way, to make our offense even better and even more run-efficient, we're going to cut the best interior offensive lineman we had on the team last year. I mean, I don't get it, man. Tell me what's going on with this team, because I don't get it. I don't see it. I see a team that is in decline. I see a team that they should have just decided to blow the whole thing up at the end of the season. Instead, they're trying to do this, well, one toe in the water, one toe out of the water, and we can still be competitive while we're getting back to the top. No, you can't. You're going to be just good enough to miss the play, or just good enough to get outside of the top 10 and really have enough ammo to really make a move to get a quarterback of the future if you want him in next year's draft, and just bad enough to miss the playoffs. So they're going to be like 15, 16, 17th in the draft. And it's okay, good, awesome, super, great. Good job. Great. And let's extend Spielman and Zimmer and go 8-8, and we'll all be happy, hunky-dory, kumbaya, Skull Vikings. Yeah, let's go.
Isn't that kind of like Marv Lewis syndrome? I mean,
yes. It's the Minnesota Bengals, man.
Here's a quick thought on my Diggs thing. I don't like all the, you guys know me. I don't like the behind the scenes and the tweeting and all that behind the scenes stuff. I don't think that all needs to be made public. That's just me. I'm old school that way. Alan Page would never do that, so I'm kind of like old school that way. But here's the thing with Diggs, and I said when we traded him, I went back and started looking at some tape, and he catches that touchdown, takes his helmet off, and gets a penalty. He drops passes. There's a lot of. He's an emotional player. Mm-hmm. Diggs is an emotional guy that goes off the edge sometimes. But damn it, you need fucking players like that on your team.
Yes, you do.
If you don't have any of those guys, you're just fucking sloughing through the motions. You need to have a few guys like that on your team. I'm telling you.
And he was the emotional fire plug for that team. When he got going, it seemed the Vikings got going.
And what exactly? What about this? What about when Thielen went down for 8 games? Who the fuck stepped in and carried it all out there?
It wasn't
because when
Bisi
Diggs
Johnson.
went down, when Diggs went down in 2018, Thielen was shut down. And if you look at the wide receiver group now, you got Adam Thielen and guys you could get at the clearance rack at Menards, man. If you think Bisi Johnson is a guy that's going to step up and be WR2, he's not. He's just right. I don't see it. I just maybe it's me. Maybe I need a new set of prescription glasses. I don't know, but now by trading Diggs, they need 2 wide receivers because they went into this offseason needing a 3rd wide receiver. Now they need a starter, arguably WR1, and now a good slot guy.
Yeah.
It just aggravates me, man.
I released my top 15, I think, last week on my wide receiver, my boards that I release. Mm-hmm. If you go 8 to 15 on that list, they're all Bisi Johnson. He did not. It's not hard to replace Bisi Johnson, dude. I mean, there's a bunch out there. But I have a remedy. I have a remedy to what you were just talking about in my trade scenario that I was talking about earlier with you guys. And when we get to it, I think I have something that you might be interested in.
Well, let's talk about it now. We need money.
It goes right into what Ted just said. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Here's what I got. We have 5 picks in the first 105.
Correct.
We have 5 draft picks. I say, okay, it's pretty obvious to me. You take a corner at 22. You have to at this point. It's 100% that pick 22's got to be a corner. Either Henderson from Florida. The tough part is with corner, Okuda's gone. Henderson's a top 12 player. If he dipped, he's probably not going to be there at 22, and there's a little bit of a fall off at corner. You got Ted's boy, Arnett, I think he is, who ran and Dantzler, and Fulton's the only guy that ran a really higher. Fulton would probably be next in line, and then the other guys had a little bit slower 40s, Dantzler and Arnett and all those guys. But say you get your corner at 22, right? You're done. You call Carolina, and I'm just going to use this team and this player as an example. You can use any player you want. It doesn't have to be this guy, but I'm using this as an example. So you get your corner at 22. When 25 rolls around, you get a hold of Carolina. They have 7th overall pick, so they're basically taking 7, and they don't pick again until 39. Mm-hmm. You tell them you want our 25th pick. You interested in our 25th pick? You give us your 2nd round pick at 39, and you throw DJ Moore in there, a wide receiver who I think is a tremendous young guy. When I looked through this, I had to find a young guy who shows a lot of talent. Now, he's no Diggs, but he's damn good. He's damn good at what you're probably going to get drafting one this year. So if you did that trade with them and let them have the 25th pick, you get DJ Moore, the 39th pick, and you basically have 5 picks in the 105 that you started with, and you got a wide receiver 2 already in the mix.
My thing with this, and I go back to 2 other trades that happened. One, the same day, where Bill O'Brien smoked a crack rock and then traded DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona for the husk of David Johnson and a 2nd round pick.
Husk.
And I'm thinking Spielman could have maybe looked at trading Diggs for Hopkins straight up or something. I don't know. The Vikings, anyways. I was trying to come
up with a scenario where you could get an established receiver who's already played in the NFL and has experience and still keep your 5 picks in the first 105. That was my thought.
Well, here's the thing. This is the second part of my point, which is kind of meandering. I get it, but stay with me. So you could have had DeAndre Hopkins, or back in 2005, the Vikings traded Randy Moss to the Raiders and got a 1st round pick. And with that 1st round pick, they took Troy Williamson. And I maintain to this day that even if Troy Williamson had gone, had been a guy that had been like a Jake Reed type dude, he never would have been Randy Moss.
Correct.
That was just dumb. That was just a dumb pick. Not
you
that
said
it was
that
Troy
at the
Williamson,
party.
that it was a wide receiver, period. Mm-hmm. And I think the Vikings are kind of in the same position now with Diggs, because no matter who they get, if they make a trade, and DJ Moore, this is nothing against DJ Moore. I think he's a good receiver, but like you said, Drew, he's not Stefon Diggs. And now people are going to say, well, we essentially traded Stefon Diggs for DJ Moore, and the offense still really isn't all that great comparatively to what they could have been with Diggs. And if they pick a wide receiver at 25, that guy is forever going to be compared to Diggs, just like Williamson was compared to Moss. And I just,
it is a rock and a hard place because there's only two guys in this draft, and this is just a Drew thing.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are the only guys that are going to walk off their week one lineup. They know the route trees. They know they're set. They are ready to play right now. The other
guys are going to be gone, though, right?
Totally gone. CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, if one of them was there at 22, it would be an absolute shocker. Neither one. The only guy that I really have my eye on is the Justin Jefferson guy from LSU. Now he'll probably be there, but he's no Diggs.
And that's the thing. That's the corner the Vikings have painted. That's the corner the Vikings have painted themselves into by trading a guy that good and that dynamic. Yeah, kind of temperamental, but I think they might have been able to do a better job to prevent this from getting to this point where they had to trade him. And you guys are right. They got a lot of picks, but they still have to produce something tangible with those picks. And they did with the Percy Harvin trade, and that worked out very well for the Vikings. They got Rhodes, Jerick McKinnon, and somebody else with those picks that they ended up getting. So, but but if you'll note, they didn't get a wide receiver. They didn't take a receiver, so everybody thinks it was a great trade.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, and I saw somebody did some analysis earlier in the week on looking back at Rick Spielman's all his drafted wide receivers.
It's terrible.
And which ones have actually become productive. And out of
Harvin
all of them, it was Harvin and Diggs. That was it. Two. And it was like
Jarius Wright. I thought Jarius Wright was okay for a 4th round pick.
Right. But it was a 12-point-something% hit rate. And it's just like, oh. We thought he was bad at offensive line and quarterback.
I don't want to leave Laviska out of there. Chenault. He's the most exciting. Out of all the tape I've watched in my draft research so far, Laviska Chenault is the most exciting. Matter of fact, he's the only guy since Percy Harvin where I watched his tape twice. I rewound it and watched it all because it's so fun to watch. He's dynamic, but he's not the route runner Diggs is. He's more of a get him the ball in open space and break and juke and all that kind of shit. He's not going to run perfect route. He's not Diggs, but he's very exciting.
Cordero Patterson.
I didn't want to leave him out, but any guy that plays for Colorado that can play like he does, you got to look at it. You got to look at the team around these guys. Yeah. Why do you think Alabama quarterbacks always take a shit? Because they have they have 12 seconds to pass every year, and then they come out and McCarron. I can name off. We haven't had a good quarterback since Kenny Stabler. Why is that? Because when you get to the NFL, the windows are all tighter. You have a quarter of the time to throw it. Not everybody's in zone coverage, so the Alabama quarterbacks struggle. So I try to do my draft research by, you find a good guy who's playing for Bologna Tech, that's a guy you want to spend time looking at.
Okay.
Because he's good around shit players. I'm serious, dude.
Bologna Tech. Is that where Spielman got his GM degree?
I don't. The only way they're going to even get close to Diggs is getting their hands on CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, and they're both gone.
See, and my whole argument is the only way this would have been okay is if the Vikings could have found some way to get DeAndre Hopkins, which, boy, it looked like when you look at that trade that
the
Houston made with Arizona, that was something that was definitely doable. And now I'm almost arguing that they shouldn't get a wide receiver in the first round, although I think it's almost a need as bad as defensive back at this point.
Now,
but if you're going to be a run-first team, I would bet they go cornerback and offensive lineman in the first round.
The Vikings have one wide receiver right now.
Yeah. One
starter quality wide receiver.
And nothing against Adam Thielen, but he is now 30 years old, I believe, and he missed 6 games last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, guys start getting hurt and getting dinged up. I mean, there's a reason 30 is called, the line of demarcation for highly productive players in the NFL. It just happens to almost everybody. So
you got Zimmer talking about, Cousins can work out, but you got to get him weapons and you got to make his line better. So you get rid of one of your wide receivers. If you got to make him better, you're taking wide receivers away from him. How's he going to get better?
Get rid of one of his linemen.
His best interior offense. The one guy we thought they shouldn't get rid of, besides O'Neal and then and Bradbury because he was a rookie, was Klein. I mean, I thought Klein played fairly good football last year.
Average.
That was a move that mystified me almost as much as the Diggs trade, if we're being honest. But
I just heard at the combine Zimmer say we need to make the offensive line better. That's what he said.
I mean, unless they think Drew Samia is going to be the guy, I mean, that's kind of the only option I see right now. Maybe Avion Collins, but man, I don't know. Again, I'm just maybe I'm not seeing the forest for the trees here.
Well, if Samia is,
it's Drew Samia
ready to
will
go.
be the one that steps up.
If Samia plays, I mean, he was my favorite guard coming out in the draft, so I'm totally biased. And I got the Austin Cutting going for
Drew Samia.
No, I had him as number 2 on my board, and he was like number 6 on PFD's board. Everybody had him pretty low, a lot lower than I had him. So if he works out, then I'm not really worried about the Klein thing. But you have to replace Diggs. Has to be replaced.
His production does, yeah.
Yeah, unless we want to draft, another running back and go to the wishbone.
And I get in the group and I hear people say, "Don't worry about it. We'll just draft." So you know how hard it is to get guys right out of college like Julio Jones and Randy. Randy Moss. Those guys are rare out of college. You just hit the ground running. They hit the ground running 1,500 yards their rookie year. Those guys are hard to find. Usually wide receivers have to work themselves into the system. I mean, like Juju Schuster, he didn't do anything. A lot of these guys don't do anything until they get a few years behind them. So who are they going to get? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is.
Drew, let me ask you a question. Since you've been doing, you do the draft research for us for the most part. Out of CeeDee Lamb and Judy, besides other than those two guys, who is the most technical route runner coming out in the draft for a wide receiver?
Judy.
Besides Judy and CeeDee Lamb.
Well, everybody's really high on Ruggs. I don't fall into this 40-time stuff. I applaud the 4.27. I love the fast 40s for wide receivers, but the truth is, over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, the most productive wide receivers in the NFL were running 4.5s or lower. They were. Go back and look at all the names.
Right.
It wasn't the burners. John Ross. John Ross gets hurt getting the mail. Those guys, the burners haven't impressed me. Every year, the speed burner guys, they seem to flame out. The guys that run the 4.5s are the guys that seem to last. But
who's the best route runner? Because that's the guy the Vikings are going to look at. Because that's the guy Kirk Cousins needs.
Right, because he's got to stay on script. Exactly.
Mims from Baylor, good route runner.
Mims?
The kid from Notre Dame, Claypool, who is kind of a freaky beast. I watched him at the Combine. He was supposed to be, they wanted him to be a tight end at the next level, and he went out in the Combine and ripped up the drills and ripped up the measurables and ripped up the gauntlet. And at the end of the Combine, everybody went, all right, he's not a tight end. He's a wide receiver. He did really well. Okay. So he helped himself in the draft. And I think Jefferson, the guy I mentioned earlier, he's a good route runner. He's a good route runner, and he learned a lot in that offense. I can't remember the guy's name. Who was Burrow's offensive coordinator, who's now with Carolina, I think it is?
Oh, yeah. I'll look it up. Keep talking. I'll figure it out.
They were required in there, and this is one of the reasons I like Burrow so much. Is he did a lot of extra homework, but he worked it in with the wide receivers. Burrow wouldn't let any of the wide receivers miss any of those meetings, so those guys really broke down their Thaddeus Moss. They were all involved in the receiving scheme of what they ran there at LSU. So the receiver class is deep. There's a lot of guys in it. There's a lot. Joe Brady, that's the guy's name. But, route running is all at a different level before you get to the NFL. It's really rare that you find a guy that can run precise routes that actually knows all the routes. Most of these guys get up, they come in like Corey Coleman from Baylor when he got drafted, even Will Fuller when he came out of Notre Dame. They know 9 routes. They know 1 route.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of what these coaches ask them to run. The route tree is a lot tougher in the NFL. So it's hard to say which guy is the best route runner out of all of them. I mean, they both, when you look at draft prospects and draft write-ups and you're going to different sites and everything, usually 90% of the time, all of the research says they need help with the routes. They need to be coached up on the route tree, the route running. That's something I think they all struggle with. And Diggs probably did too his first year.
It's like probably. Offensive linemen. Offensive linemen come to the NFL. They're not ready. Not to play this game.
Yeah.
You know what it has a lot to do with, Ted? If you get a wide receiver into this system, sitting down with Cousins and Thielen are going to teach him how to run the routes more than any coach is.
Yeah, you're right.
That's something I will give. As much as we rip on Cousins, he probably knows route trees. He's seen a lot of shit in his time. Even if you go all the way back to Michigan State, he's been, 13 years playing high-level football?
Yeah.
So between him and Thielen, whoever we get, if we do get a rookie, that's going to be the guys that teach him more than the coaches, I think.
We'll see what happens. The defense doesn't look stout right now. The offense doesn't really look imposing or intimidating right now.
Well, they don't stress. You know why they don't stress the route tree in college, guys? Is because nobody plays man. Everybody's in zone, so there's no reason to know a route tree. Hey, run over there. When you're open, I'll hit you, and you run. That's what they do. Out of 130 colleges, I think 3 of them play man to man. They're all zone.
Yeah, all
zone. So I don't know.
Well, I saw it today on, I think it was the Draft Network, Draft Sims. When you plug in what are the team needs for the Vikings, every position comes up except for kicker and punter.
Well, it's not wrong.
It's not wrong. Not at all.
They need,
including quarterback.
They need 2 interior offensive linemen. You could make an argument they need a left tackle. I could say they're going to roll with Reef one more year and maybe get a guy late. They need 2 wide receivers. They need they only need 1 defensive line. Michael Pierce, credit to Spielman. I thought that was a great signing. The defensive tackle out of Baltimore, the Vikings signed.
We got younger, better for less money.
So you can almost take that off the board, though. The interior defensive line was right up there at pick 25 the last month.
But that's nose guard. We still need a 3-tech because Shamar Stefan doesn't get the push a 3-tech needs to get.
So they still need a defensive end, and they need a backup defensive end to replace Weatherly. They put a second-round tender on Eric Wilson, so thank goodness he's not going anywhere. So linebacker should be okay.
Okay, wait. While you're on linebacker, I want to ask you guys this. I look at the Vikings draft. You know what I look at mostly? How the teams in front of it unfolds. That's what I look at. How are the teams ahead of the Vikings going to pick, and that kind of will lead you to kind of what they're going to do. Every time I do my own personal mocks with all the NFL teams leading up to pick 22, the linebackers aren't taken. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that our luck? The year we picked, the year that linebacker doesn't seem to be a priority, Murray from Alabama and Patrick Queen from LSU are both on the board every time we get this. So we can't take the best linebacker because we need a corner so bad. You know, you file, it's like, fuck.
Yeah, they need.
You're not taking the best player available.
Well,
they need 2 cornerbacks, and they need at least 1 safety. And if you believe the rumors of Harrison Smith being on the trade market too. Oh yeah, they'll need at least 2 safeties. Yeah.
Because we need depth.
2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 10 guys they need. 10 guys. 10 guys.
2017, we needed a quarterback. We're there. All we need is 1 piece, guys. I mean, Ted, don't you have to go corner with one of those 2 picks at 22 or 25? I mean, look, don't you have to go corner with the first one?
Yeah, but
definitely.
Do you expect an impact guy?
No, I don't think there's going to be any impact guy at 22 or 25. But they need to stop the bleeding is what they need to do, and they got to get somebody.
If Henderson falls there, you got to take him. I'm calling it right now. In 2 years, Okudah and Henderson, C.J. Henderson from Florida and Okudah, I hate to say it, they are going to be Pro Bowlers within 2 years, both of them. They are really, really good. Really good. I mean, Okudah's going to top 5. He's not going to be around. But if Henderson fell to 22 and you didn't take him, you deserve to be kicked right in the fucking onions. Because that would be a present concerning being the condition the Vikings are in down their 3. They lost their 3 top corners. Sorry, Holton Hill, but we're in a top corner. So I'm thinking, well, one of those 2 picks, you almost got to take a corner, don't you? If you're not going to get one in free agency, you can't pass corner on those first 2 picks. You can't.
They have to. They absolutely have to. I think. I mean,
and Dave said, I've had this discussion with Dave, and he says, well, in Zimmer's system, they can't play the first year. Well, you can't just say that, can you? What if the guy's really good?
That's not true.
If
Anthony Barr played his first year,
but not as a corner. None of Zimmer's corners have started their first year.
If we drafted Henderson from Florida, he's the best corner
They got some
on the
playing
team.
time, but they haven't.
When he's standing at the stadium, he's the best corner on the team.
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds after we said his name, he's the best corner on this team.
Yeah.
Hopefully then they do that, Drew. Because we need help. We need help desperately. And then what are they going to do with the other pick? What's your other top priority? You go pick a wide receiver in round 1?
I don't think this franchise is ready to take any more receivers.
It's in round 1. I think they're afraid
Treadwell.
of wide receivers in round 1 as they are quarterbacks.
Would be too if you took Laquan Treadwell as your last first round wide receiver. I don't know, the wide receiver. I'd really like to hold off till the second round having to take a receiver because it's such a deep class. There's a lot of guys on my top 15 that are going to be. I mean, there's going to be a run on them in the second, but I think at 58 you can get yourself a receiver that can end up being a starter the first year. I do think that.
And I want to say Collar did the research that for wide receivers, first and second round, the hit rate is identical at about 50%. There's no drop off between the first and second round.
Do they go corner safety? Are both those first round picks going to be defense? I mean, I know Zimmer would like that, but
I can't see that happening because Zimmer would like that. If you get a corner, and this is the time, out of all the drafts that he's needed a corner, this is the time. What on offense would you go with? Would you go with one of those top tackles, especially if one drops?
I don't know. I mean, they got 12 picks. As much as Spielman likes to wheel and deal, and you can make an argument what their biggest position of need is. I think Drew's right in its cornerback, but you could also talk me into wide receiver. You could also talk me into offensive line. I don't think he'd move up and get a guard. God, that would be stupid.
No, and
you know what, guys, the guard class. I'm not just
the
trying
guard
to be
class
a smart
was last year.
I would not be surprised if there wasn't a guard taken in the first 50 picks. I wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah, there's going to be. I think Harris, the center from Washington. I think his name's Nick Harris. Vikings love that guy, but I don't know. He's a center, but I think he plays a little bit of guard. But the interior of the offensive line draft class, the centers are probably stronger than the guards. And at this point, I really think they're not going to move Reef. I think that would have been done already. I think they're going forward with Reef just because the first couple of days I expected him to be either gone. Cuts. If you're not gone, you're here. I think he's staying. So I don't think I've dropped my offensive tackle at one of those first 2-round picks kind of down a little bit.
Okay, I've got a theory on what it takes to improve the team, and it goes on. Well, it's all we go by. All right,
I'm listening.
All right. First off, you go by the players that impact scoring the most or impact stopping scores the most. All right, obviously number 1 is the quarterback, right? So in our quarterback situation, we've already extended Kirk Cousins. That's settled. That's who we have. Like it or not, as much as I want to trade him, that's who we've got. All right? So we got Kirk Cousins. Then it goes outside in. Outside on the offense is your wide receivers, right? And you talked about that. We need one because we've only got one, and we know that he cannot dominate when Diggsy was gone. So we need 2, right? But I mean, we have Bisi Johnson, who's a good wide receiver 4. We need a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3. Especially,
hold on. We need 2 wide receivers.
Right, a 2 and a 3, right? But
I want to make sure I got that down.
That wide receiver 2 is more important to scoring points than any other player besides the quarterback. Because we've already got wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1 is the most important wide receiver. Wide receiver 2 is next in line.
But the guy you're saying isn't on the team right now.
Isn't on the team. All right.
Okay.
To stopping scoring, right?
No, wait. Back up. What do you want? What you're saying is, before you pass the wide receivers, how are you going to address that?
Well, I'm giving you priority. You're looking at it should be up there, but then you get into, can I get a quality wide receiver that fits that mold What's my chances of getting him in the first round and in the second round? And if they're equal in either one, right, then that opens that first round pick for another possible position of need. Now,
you had WR2 on the roster on Monday.
I know we did. Actually, he was, or WR1 and Thielen was 2. But anyways, now we get on the defensive side. The most important guys against scoring, believe it or not, are your corners. We have none. We've got Hughes and Hill, and most likely Hughes may move into the nickel role, right? And Boyd come out. That's it. That's all we've got. We've got an unproven. Hughes was glowed about, given all sorts of praise by Zimmer after he drafted him.
Glowed about is that like a walkabout?
Well, yeah, it's like rubbing one off. Anyways,
What?
but he had. That's what Zimmer thought, not me, Zimmer.
How much beer you drink?
Just one. But anyways,
Talking about
Hughes has the neck issue, which is, and he may not be fully healthy until later in the summer, which may be fine because we may not be off, COVID-19 quarantine until then anyways. But that's who you got. So you need somebody there. How hard is it to find a quality corner versus a quality wide receiver? If it's harder to find a corner than it is the wide receiver, which proves out via draft histories, you go with that higher pick being the corner, right?
Okay.
But we need
one flaw,
2 of them.
Wait. One flaw in your system. Your system that you're describing right now makes perfect sense. But it has an area to blow up in your face. And the example would be Spielman passed on Will Hernandez and took Mike Hughes because he was going to grab his fucking interior lineman at the beginning of the second round. And a big string of them went. One of his guys was in it. Like 6 of them went.
Right.
And it totally backfired on him. It totally backfired on him, and then he was scrambling.
Well, do you think all the wide receivers are going to be gone by our second round pick?
No, I'm just saying if everything works out to what you're saying and it falls right along how it should, then we're fine. But you get those runs.
Well, I agree. They can mess it up. But you got to prioritize.
I'm not saying your theory's flawed. I'm saying it has a chance to be flawed if that happens.
Okay.
So Dave, hey, real quick, what you're saying is, right now, as it stands, the Vikings can't score, and they can't stop people from scoring.
They have a more difficult time at each. Yes.
Oh, we're shit.
Especially on the scoring part. We do have the 2 best safeties in the league, which helps prevent the scoring. They're the ones that help cover for the declining cornerback play last season. And we have good linebackers. That helps in that middle coverage area and especially against the run. But our defensive line...
Seat is what you're telling me.
Huh?
We're in the catbird seat is what you're telling me.
Yeah, for needs. We can pick
Merle
almost
Haggard?
everybody. But we...
Merle Haggard? No, to answer your question...
But that's what you go for first.
You're better off. You're going to be better off chance getting a quality wideout at 58 than you are a corner.
I agree.
Especially in this draft.
And then that tells you got to go a corner or high.
Not that the corners are pretty. There's a lot of depth and a lot of talent at corner class too for the 2020 draft. Wide receiver, offensive tackle, corners, and even safeties. They're pretty. This is a good draft for talent.
And as you work your way in from the outside on the offense, your next spot is offensive tackle. So,
if you ask which one could you wait on, I'd say you could wait on the wide receiver. You'd have to take the corner earlier. That's my opinion.
You got to take the corner in the first. So,
Drew, you think corner, Dave? You also think corner in the first,
There's
or
one of those,
you go wide receiver?
No, one of those.
I mean,
first
it all
2 picks
depends on how the draft
corner
falls. Like,
right.
I get it. Like, say, because who was it? The Ohio State guy. Was it Garyon Conley who had that last minute sexual assault charge? I think it popped up on draft night, and he was supposed to be a top 5 guy, and he dropped all the way.
I remember that.
So I mean, and I say that not to point out that, but weird things happen on draft night. Laramie Tunsil with the video with the gas mask, and I mean, weird things happen and guys drop. So is there anybody? Let me ask you guys this. So yeah, weird things happen, and so you kind of have to look at who you think you want to get, and then just kind of see how the board plays out and all that kind of stuff. Let me ask you guys this. I want to answer from each one of you. Is there a player at a position that you would be willing to take. We got what we said. How many picks in the top? They got picks.
In the top
They got
100.
5 picks in the first 105.
22, 25, 58, 89, and 105. 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, 2 third-round picks. Would you be willing to sacrifice some of those picks to move up and get somebody? And I'm thinking with that much ammo, you could get up into the top 10 to 12 area.
Right. With the 2 first-round picks, you could go up to 10, theoretically.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Number 10.
I would have to vote no, because if we were 1 or 2 positions to fill and we're on our way to Bone Town, then we'd be okay. But being we have all these holes, I think we need all these. I would say keep all those picks.
Okay, Dave, would you? Is there anybody on the draft board right now that you would be willing to move up into the top 10 for?
I haven't studied it yet, but there are some intriguing offensive tackles.
Wow, top 10 for a tackle.
Wait. Let me backtrack just a little bit on that.
Okay.
If Henderson, C.J. Henderson, the corner from Florida, who he and Okudah and Christian Fulton are the 3. I really count 40 times with my corners. Right. I don't give a shit about a 40 time for an offensive or defensive lineman. I don't.
No, you should.
But 40 time matters for corners more than anybody in the whole draft. Any position, 40-yard dash is really the one you look at. If Henderson falling around 14, 15, 16, Ted, I would be on the phone. That would be at 22 to 16. I would try to work something there, because that guy, him and Okudah, it falls off after that. And I'm not saying the rest of the guys are scrubs. They're good, but he's a difference maker. I think he's a Pro Bowl player. I think he's a shutdown guy, and I think he's on the field week 1. I would sacrifice maybe a third or whatever. I would at least ask to see what it costs to move up to get Henderson, but only if he got close. Maybe if he was in the teens. If I had to go up to 8 or something, I probably wouldn't do it. So
if you could move like 6 or 7 spots and get him, you would do it.
I would do it if it wouldn't cost me.
Okay, and I agree with that logic.
That would be the player I'd go after. That would be the guy I'd go after.
If he's as good as you say he is, I would agree with that logic and go for it, without a doubt. Because he's going to make a bigger impact than anybody else. Period.
Now, if you want to give up more than that, and you really want to think about making a move, you'd go get one of those wideouts. The 2 wideouts that we mentioned earlier in the show.
Judy or CeeDee Lamb?
But I think you're sacrificing way too much capital.
Or you get the 2 top quarterbacks. But they're not going to do that either.
I would not, if I were going to give up like both my first, my second, and both my thirds, like if I'm going to make that kind of move, I'm not going to get a wide receiver, because that guy is never going to live up to – it's another Moss trade all over. Moss Williamson thing all over. Only way I'm doing that is for a guy like Joe Burrow. Honest to God. I would do that for Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah.
A tight end, a wide receiver can't live up to that draft capital. That's a very, very good point. That Ted Glover, he's got some good points, man, I tell you.
But let's say, there's something that comes out about Judy or CeeDee Lamb or Okudah. I mean, I would love personally to see Jeffrey Okudah wearing Vikings purple for obvious reasons. But yeah, and that was going to be my answer. If there's a guy that the Vikings covet that somehow slips, like Sharif Floyd, but they didn't have to make a trade for him, that reason, that year, I would. But honestly, with what the Vikings have 12 picks, I wouldn't be surprised to watch Rick Spielman move back and get even more picks, because they need bodies, man. They just need people.
I mean, he moves back when we didn't need bodies. Who knows what the fuck he's going to do now?
All right.
That's true.
I've got my dog Olive in here, and she needs to go out. So
my buddy Nubs, who I do draft shit with, you know what he said about Okudah today? He said Jeff Okudah is so good at corner, Drew, he could play both sides of the field at the same time if he needs to.
Damn.
That's damn good praise from Nubs.
Yeah.
All right. We'll keep that, Drew. Okudah is the guy. Ted, you got any last words?
Looking forward to our live draft show, and I hope we do a couple shows between now and then. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And
we'll all be separated in isolation still. We'll all be stir crazy. It'll be great.
I want a couple Don Glover stories lined up, so don't forget about that.
Okay.
Drew, last words?
Meow, meow, Viking. Oh.
Skol!
Up a kill.
Skol, everybody! See you next time.